What's up, world? I'm Cameron McKinney, and this is Pop Culture Spotlight, a podcast about the movie The Line. Here's a quick synopsis. Tom Baxter, whose nickname is Sunshine, is a dedicated member of his college fraternity, KNA, and starts to have mixed feelings about it. The film stars Alex Wolff, Lewis Pullman, Halle Bailey, Austin Abrams, Angus Cloud, Bo Mitchell, Scott McNairy, Sherry O'Terry, and John Malkovich. Standout performances. There are a lot of great young actors working today, and one who I don't think gets enough credit for his output is Alex Wolff, whom I've known about since his time on Nickelodeon. He's been in big movies, seen by lots of people. Ari Aster's Hereditary, M. Night Shyamalan's Old, Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, and Michael Sarnowski's A Quiet Place Day One, not to mention 2 Jumanji movies. He's very good in Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. What they did to his character Spencer in Next Level, I find deplorable. Some of his best acting work has been in smaller films. In The House of Tomorrow, Wolff plays Jared, a student journalist at Roslyn High School, and my favorite of his performances comes in the movie Pig, where Wolff plays Amir, an entrepreneur trying to impress his dad. In The Line, he plays Tom and does an impressive southern accent. He is one of the most committed young actors working today. The character starts this movie loving his fraternity and this brotherhood, and then begins to have doubts, but by the time he acts on those doubts, it's too late. This movie does a really good job of not making its main character a sympathetic figure or a victim himself. Tom is a very flawed, believable person. I have now many times on this podcast given praise to actor Austin Abrams. He's a young actor who has done his best work alongside well-known stars Ben Stiller and Mike White's Brad Status, a movie about a dad trying to help his son get into Harvard, and Wolves with Brad Pitt and George Clooney from director John Watts, a comedy crime movie that I liked more than most. In The Line, Abrams plays Geddes, a freshman pledged to the fraternity who has issues with the way the upperclassmen treat him. I view the part as the most critical of the movie because his interactions with the other members of the fraternity is what builds to the climax, which I'm not going to spoil. Lewis Pullman is not a household name, but you've seen him in the very popular Top Gun Maverick playing pilot Bob Floyd. I was really impressed by the actor in the movie The Kane Mutiny Court Martial. In The Line, he plays Todd, the president of the KNA fraternity, who is mentoring Wolff's Tom. He's the perfect actor for the role. He's a wormy character. Lewis Pullman is next going to be in the Marvel movie Thunderbolts as Sentry, a character I'm not super familiar with. For an actor like him, it makes sense to join the MCU. I like it as a place to first gain notoriety. I am now at a place where I want to see people on the cusp of fame playing superheroes. I no longer want to see the biggest movie stars in the world in Marvel movies. I would rather see actors who I don't think have gotten enough love from the public be in these kinds of movies, get that praise, and then for people to go back and watch their earlier work. And finally, Halle Bailey is very good as Annabelle, a student that Tom begins to fall for. There's a scene where she wants to go back to his fraternity, and it's the first scene where he begins to realize it might not be the best place on earth. I also really liked her in The Color Purple. Haven't yet watched the live action The Little Mermaid, but from what I've seen of her on screen, I'm impressed. And that cast of young actors is really what made me want to see this movie. I saw the names Alex Wolff, Lewis Pullman, Austin Abrams, and Halle Bailey, and I wanted to see them together in a movie because I have seen their past work and I think they are impressive actors. And I do think in a few years, 1 or 2 of them could be viewed as major movie stars. At the very least, all of them have the potential to lead a movie and have led a movie before. What I liked about the movie The Line is that most movies that explore fraternity or frat life are straight up comedies, Animal House being the most famous example and Neighbors being a recent one. And while those movies are mocking fraternity life in a way, say, this movie explores the damages it can have on individuals and friendships. Also, the dangerous amounts of competition going on between all these young men. In most movies about fraternities, it's about how they can strengthen friendships, but not to spoil this one, it's about how it can also ruin one. What I didn't like about the movie The Line is it's impossible for a movie like this not to feel like a cliche at times, and it's kind of obvious how things are going to end for the characters. For the most part, this movie avoids tropes, but when you see one, it can make the movie feel bland and unoriginal. And even though I walked away liking the movie, I could totally see somebody watching this film and saying to themselves, this movie had nothing new to say on the subject matter of fraternities. And I'll tell you the most cliched scene in the movie. It's when they meet with the school administration and they are told to no longer party. I mean, that is just a wild scene to put in a movie like this because it's so ridiculous, and it's also a scene we've seen in a million different other movies. The movie is a bit basic to a fault, and the story it's telling about its characters is very simplistic. One smart thing this movie did do, though, was to make the whole movie from the point of view of Tom, played by Alex Wolff. I think that makes the movie feel like more than just a grand statement about fraternities in general. Because once you watch this movie, you will realize it is not pro-fraternity whatsoever. And I'm not sure how much the average moviegoer is going to care about this movie's feelings about fraternity, but one thing I think you will end up caring about is this character Tom. I'll be honest, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing that I find the character of Tom to be more interesting and intriguing than what this movie actually has to say about fraternity life in college. This movie to me is a clear example of why the protagonist of a movie matters, because if I had just watched a movie where I wasn't following one character and was just all about how fraternities are bad, I would have been bored to death. But because I was invested in the arc of this character, I ended up liking this movie a lot. And that says a lot about Wolff as an actor, that he can get you there. He can get you to care about this character. He really does his best to turn him into a sympathetic figure by the end of the movie. I mean, he is playing a character who doesn't really care at all about his education. He is just all in on this one aspect of college life, which is being in a fraternity. I really do respect the fact that this movie does take itself seriously. Like, it is an intense movie. It 1000% takes a stance on its subject matter. And that could very well be the thing that divides audiences, because some movies don't tell you how to feel about the topics they are about. But this movie, you could say, is kind of a one-sided movie. And I'm okay with that. I'm not sure that most people are. See, this is what's interesting about this movie, is that I really enjoyed it. I love the performances. I agree with a lot of what the movie has to say about the subject matter of fraternities, but I don't know how realistic this movie is, or is it just a bunch of stereotypes on screen? Like, I don't know if this movie reflects how most college fraternities are. Or maybe here's a better question. Is this a reflection of what college fraternities were 10 to 15 years ago? Like, I am not on a college campus anymore, and I have never been near a fraternity in my life. We've all heard horror stories when it comes to fraternities, but does that mean that all fraternities are bad? I don't know if the answer is yes or no. I don't know if this is symbolic of what fraternities are actually like, or is this a fraternity that's straight out of an after-school special? Again, I don't have the answers. I'm just asking the question because I'm far from an expert on the subject. It's kind of easy for me to watch this movie and agree with a lot of what it is saying. I wonder how an actual person who goes to college in 2025 25 would feel about this movie and what it is saying about fraternity life. And I would really wonder, how would somebody who's in a fraternity respond to watching this movie? It's even more interesting when you consider the fact that this is a fully fictional story. This is not based on true events. Like, if you watch this movie and it was based on true events, then you could say, look, this was a real depiction of what happened with a specific college fraternity. But because it's fictional, the movie feels more like an opinion of the filmmakers and what he feels about college fraternities. And again, I would like to reiterate that I would be on his side in most of what he's saying about fraternity life. I'm just not sure most people would. I'm just also not sure that depicting fraternities being bad is that interesting for a movie. What is interesting to me was the characters, the performances. Those are the things that I gravitated towards when it came to this movie, and I feel like most people would probably end up agreeing with me if they end up watching this movie, that it is about the Alex Wolffs, it's about the Austin Abrams, the Halle Baileys, and the Lewis Pullmans. That's what makes this movie stand out, is its collection of really good young actors. I like seeing young performers be in movies that are character studies, that aren't giant epics, that aren't franchise films, where they actually get to showcase what they can bring on screen as an actor. For example, there's this one scene where Alex Wolff's Tom goes to Getty's, played by Austin Abrams' dorm, to confront him about what's been going on between the two characters. Personally, I believe that most young actors in that scene would have gone overboard, that they would have gone over the top with their performances, but what they brought to that scene was subtlety, and I found it to be super effective in one of the best scenes of the entire movie. It's two guys trying to come to a resolution for a conflict they both know is going to end badly. So there is one character in this movie that I have to talk about that I haven't yet, and that's Mitch Miller, played by Bo Mitchell. Now, Mitch Miller is Tom's best friend. He is also part of the fraternity, and most of the other members of the fraternity find him to be really annoying. And I, as an audience member, found him to be really annoying, but that is the point of the character, that this guy is pretending to be this annoying college guy, but in reality he can be nice. He is really nice with Tom at the beginning of the movie. His issue is he is trying to be what he thinks a member of a fraternity is supposed to be. The Line is also a movie that has lots to say about the social status of its characters. I'm not going to spoil the ending. All I'm going to say is one character is better off than another because he is in a better financial situation. And I'm not going to lie, I do find that to be one of the interesting things about this movie, is it's about these group of guys who are from all different walks of life, and here's this one guy in Tom who has more to lose than all of these other guys because their dads can help them get jobs even if things don't go well for them in college. One problem I found with that is the movie really only explores that idea at the beginning and at the end. I wish maybe it had explored that for a larger amount of time, because instead of that, the movie is more interested in this idea that you start to lose yourself as an individual when all you care about is the group that you are in, which is of course an opinion that we all share, but it's also one that we've heard many of times before. The clear way this movie takes down fraternities is by showing you the flaws in the structures of them. The first one being, here's this one guy, you have to do whatever he says. I mean, that is the type of thing that is going to drive anyone up a wall. Another problematic element of them is the leadership. I mean, once you feel like you are the leader of all of these guys, the power starts to get to you. And the movie really does depict being the leader of the KNA as being this kind of adrenaline rush. There's a scene where Pullman's Todd tells Tom to watch the speech from Gladiator to get him pumped up. And then, of course, you have the thing that most of us associate with fraternities, which is hazing. The problem there is that we think they both go hand in hand, and so do the people involved in them. It's almost impossible for one to exist without the other. And that's one of the reasons why I can rationally watch this movie and say to myself, well, I know that all fraternities are not bad, but I do agree with the movie's overall message. Because like it or not, the movie really is how the public perceives fraternities to mostly be, and that's the dark side of them. That's what's so interesting about Tom trying to be something outside of the fraternity, because he's telling the people in his life that he's not just the guy you think he is, he's not just the frat guy, yet all he is doing is frat guy things. He's telling Annabelle and her friends there's more to him than this fraternity. But no spoilers, the fraternity takes him to a dark place that's impossible to ignore. Really, by the middle of the movie, Tom got to a place where he wasn't enjoying his time in the fraternity, and he wasn't really enjoying his time outside of the fraternity because he was being judged by being in a fraternity. And based on how the movie ends, rightfully so. So while I do believe the topic to be more complicated than a black or white issue, I have to agree with the movie in that I believe fraternities and what we perceive them to be is bad. Having said all that, the movie is one-sided and puts its characters in the most extreme example. I mean, I don't really know if this movie is going to change anyone's minds or if that's even the point of the movie. I don't think you're going to be pro-fraternity, or if you went to a fraternity and you watch this movie, you're going to be on board with everything the movie is saying. Or vice versa. Like, I entered this movie not having a positive viewpoint about fraternities, so maybe that opened me up to agreeing with the movie more. I do have to talk about the fact that this is a directorial debut of Ethan Berger. I mean, this is an impressive debut because this is a movie with a clear vision. Like, he knows where this movie is going, he knows where to take it, and he hired the right actors to be a part of it. All of them were playing the right characters. And I really do hope that they get praise for their work in this movie. I want to see more movies led by Alex Wolff. This movie proves to me he is a capable leading man. And it's great to see him in a few scenes in Oppenheimer and then in a few scenes in A Quiet Place Day One, but I was way more impressed by him in this movie because he has to make you believe that he is playing a good guy just making bad decisions, really. That his judgment is just clouded by the fact that he wants to fit in with all of the members of his fraternity. The other thing that he has to do in this movie is at the beginning of this movie, he has to convince you that all he cares about is this fraternity, and then by the end of the movie, he has to depict the fact that he no longer wants to be a part of it, that it has completely ruined his life. He has to believably play both sides of that, and he does so brilliantly. The character is given a great arc, and Alex Wolff does the most with it. I know how I feel about this movie. I am interested in how others will feel about this movie and its ending, because it really does end in a really dark place, and I'm interested to see if people feel like the ending was earned, because I actually do feel like this movie earns its ending. It builds towards something, and it gets there by the end. The Line is a fascinating movie, one that I really enjoyed watching and one that I really enjoyed talking about as well. I know not many people have seen this movie. My hopes for the film is that in the coming years, these actors will become bigger and bigger names, and that this movie will be revisited and enjoyed. I want to live in a world where Alex Wolff becomes a big movie star. I want to live in a world where Lewis Pullman becomes a bigger name. And especially I want to live in a world where people like myself view Austin Abrams as one of the best young actors working today. I've enjoyed all of their work before, and I especially enjoyed seeing them all show up in one movie. A movie in the line that I found to truly be worthy of their talent, and one that if you watch, you will have strong feelings about. The last thing I'll say is I had no idea when I started watching this movie that it had both John Malkovich Malkovich and Denise Richards in it. As a couple, no less. If that doesn't get you to watch this movie, The Line, I don't know what will. Thanks for listening to this edition of Pop Culture Spotlight. I'm Cameron McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Thursday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. I highly recommend you check out the film The Line. Next week on the podcast, I'm talking about the movie Warfare, written and directed by Ray Mendoza and Alex Garland, starring DeFaro Wunatai, Will Poulter, Cosmo Jarvis, Kit Connor, Michael Gandolfini, Noah Centineo, Joseph Quinn, and Charles Melton. So tune into that and please rate, review, and subscribe.